My family excluded me from my parents' wedding after 27 years together. They only wanted me as a free babysitter. So I exposed everything on Instagram during their perfect day and destroyed their social media reputation. I'm 19 years old, studying graphic design at a community college, and about 3 months ago, something happened that basically blew my family into 1,000 pieces. Though, if I'm being honest, I think it was already broken for a long time. It's just that nobody wanted to admit it. The thing is that my parents, Gloria and Lawrence, after being together for like 27 years, finally decided to get married. And that whole circus ended up showing the entire world what I already knew since I can remember. That in my family, I'm basically invisible. Or worse, I only exist when they need me for something. I guess I should start at the beginning. I mean, with what my family is like so you understand the context. I'm the youngest of 3 siblings, and there's a pretty big age difference between us. My sister, Miranda, is 26. She's married, has 2 young kids, and basically she's my parents' perfect child, you know? The one who does everything right. The one with the amazing job in finance. The pretty house. The catalog family. Then there's Cameron, who's 23. He's the only son, and literally can do no wrong in my mom's eyes. He works in something tech-related that pays super well, and he's been with his girlfriend Kelsey for like 4 years. And then there's me, Alexis, the surprise daughter who arrived when my mom was 35 and already thought she was done having kids. It's not like my parents are abusive or anything like that. They didn't hit me or yell at me all the time, but it's like I'm a piece of furniture in the house. Something that's there but nobody really sees. Looking back, I think it was always like that, but I was too young to realize it. When Miranda graduated from college, my parents threw her a giant party, invited everyone, rented a hall, the whole show. When Cameron graduated, same deal, huge party, gifts, my dad crying with pride. I graduated from high school last year, and basically, we went to dinner at Olive Garden with my grandparents. That was it. My mom didn't even share photos on Instagram, when literally her feed is 90% photos of Miranda and Cameron doing anything. Things got really obvious like 6 months ago when my parents announced they were finally getting married. We were all at a family dinner, like normal Sunday, and my dad stands up and says he wants to make an announcement. I thought maybe they were going to sell the house or something. But no. They dropped that after all these years they're having a wedding, that they'd always wanted it but had never had time, and that now that Cameron was established and Miranda had her family, it was the perfect time. I noticed they didn't mention anything about me, as if I didn't even exist in that equation. Everyone started screaming and hugging them, and I got happy for them too. I mean, it's nice, right? Your parents getting married after so long. Then my mom starts talking about the plans and says that Miranda is going to be the maid of honor, that Cameron is going to be the best man, and that Kelsey, my brother's girlfriend, is also going to be in the wedding party as a bridesmaid, because she's practically part of the family. I'm sitting there waiting for her to say something about me. Anything, but nothing. So I ask her, like trying to sound casual, "Hey Mom, what am I going to do in the wedding?" And she looks at me like I'd asked something super weird and says, "Well, you're going to be there, Alexis. Obviously, you're part of the family." And that was it. Literally, that was the entire conversation about my role in their wedding. The following weeks were basically torture. My mom, Miranda, and Kelsey had all these outings to look at dresses, try cakes, look at flowers, and I was never invited. One day I got home from school and they were all there drinking champagne and laughing, and when I asked what I'd missed, my mom says in that all-casual voice, "Oh, we were looking at dress options for the bridesmaids. We already found some beautiful ones in navy blue," I told her. Why? They hadn't told me they were going, and she says, "It's just that this was only for the bridal party, honey. But don't worry, you can wear any nice dress you have." Any nice dress you have. Like I was some random guest and not their daughter. But wait, because it gets worse. Turns out the wedding was going to be in Aspen, at a super luxurious mountain resort, a whole destination thing. My mom was obsessed with everything looking perfect for photos, because obviously she was going to document every second on her social media. So, like a month before the wedding, my dad tells me we need to talk about travel arrangements. I sat down thinking they were finally going to include me in something, and he tells me there's a small problem with my plane ticket. Apparently, when they booked flights for everyone, they forgot to include me. They forgot. They booked first-class flights for Miranda, Cameron, Kelsey, Miranda's kids, and the 2 of them, but literally forgot their youngest daughter. My dad tries to fix it, saying they can get me a flight, but it's going to be an economy and on a different flight, like I'm going to arrive several hours after them. And on top of that, he tells me this like he's doing me a favor, like I should be grateful they're letting me go. I asked him why they couldn't just change one of the first-class tickets for 2 economy ones, so at least I'd travel with someone from the family. And he looks at me like I'm crazy and says those tickets are already paid for and non-refundable, and that I should be happy they found a solution. But the real moment where everything exploded was like 2 weeks before the wedding. I was in my room doing homework when my mom comes in and sits on my bed with that fake smile she puts on when she wants to ask me for something. She starts with the whole spiel about how the wedding is going to be so special and she's so excited, and then she drops the real bomb. She tells me that actually the reason it's so important that I go to the wedding is because they need someone to watch Miranda's kids during the ceremony and reception. That Miranda obviously is going to be busy as maid of honor and can't be chasing 2 young kids, and that it would be perfect if I could keep them entertained and make sure they don't interrupt anything important. I sat there processing what I'd just heard. They didn't want me at the wedding as their daughter. They wanted me as a free babysitter. I told her no, that if they were going to treat me like hired help, then I expected to be paid as such. And she gets all offended, saying, how can I be so selfish? That it's her special day. That family helps each other. I told her that apparently I don't count as family enough to be in the wedding party or to travel on the same flight as everyone, but I count enough when they need a babysitter. She started crying, like those manipulative tears she always uses when she doesn't get her way, saying, I've always been a difficult daughter and it doesn't understand why I can't just do this for her. My dad comes in because he heard the drama and automatically takes my mom's side because that's what he always does. He tells me I'm overreacting, that they're giving me the opportunity to be useful at the wedding, that I should be grateful. Useful. That was the word he used. As if my only value was being useful to them. So I told them, you know what? I'm not going to the wedding. That if the only role they had for me was as an unpaid babysitter, then I'd rather stay home. My mom literally screams that I'm ruining her wedding, that I'm ungrateful, that after everything they've done for me, this is how I repay them. I asked her what exactly they'd done for me that they hadn't done for Miranda or Cameron, and she couldn't answer, just kept crying and saying I was a horrible daughter. The week before the wedding was super awkward. My parents basically weren't talking to me. They were all busy packing and making final preparations. Miranda came to the house one day with the kids and didn't even look at me, just made passive-aggressive comments to my mom about how some people don't understand the meaning of family. Cameron sent me a message saying I was being immature and that I should apologize to Mom before it was too late, that I was going to regret missing the wedding. I told him the only thing I regretted was taking so long to realize I was never really part of their perfect family. The day they left for Aspen, I was in my room. I heard all the chaos of suitcases, kids running around, everyone talking excitedly about the trip. Nobody came up to say goodbye to me. Not a single one of them. My dad yelled from downstairs something like, Alexis, we're leaving. Like he didn't even come up to see if I was okay or if I'd changed my mind. I heard the door close, the cars starting, and just like that they left. My entire family went to this super important wedding and left me alone in the house without even saying goodbye. I thought that was the worst part. But no, because then the social media started. My mom started posting like crazy from the moment they arrived at the resort. Photos of the place, photos of her and my dad, photos of Miranda and Cameron, photos of the whole family together at the rehearsal dinner. And in one of the photos, my mom puts as caption, so blessed to have my whole family here to celebrate this special moment. My whole family. As if I didn't exist. As if I wasn't even her daughter. But what really made me angry was when someone in the comments asked where I was, because apparently some people noticed I was missing. And you know what my mom did? She commented saying that, unfortunately, I'd caught a really bad flu right before the trip and doctors recommended I not travel, that they were so sad I couldn't be there, but my health came first. A complete lie. Pure theater to look good with people, so nobody would know they'd basically excluded me from their wedding. That's when something in me clicked. Like, I'd already tolerated years of being the invisible daughter, of my achievements not mattering, of being third in everything. But this was different. This was actively lying about me, erasing me from their narrative, pretending they cared about me when they clearly never cared as much as they did about Miranda or Cameron. So I grabbed my phone and took a selfie. Me at home, clearly not sick, clearly not in bed dying from the flu. I looked fine. I was wearing normal clothes, smiling, and I posted it on Instagram with the caption, "Not sick, just forgotten," with the smiley face emoji. And honestly, I didn't expect anything big to happen. I just wanted to leave a record that I wasn't going to let them erase me, just like that. But it turns out my cousin Haley, who's 21 and is my Uncle Walter's daughter, my mom's older brother, saw my post. Haley and I had always gotten along well, like she was also kind of the black sheep on her side of the family, so we had that connection. She sent me a message saying, "Cousin, what the hell is going on?" And I told her everything. Absolutely everything. The years of being ignored, the wedding where I had no role, the forgotten plane ticket, the babysitter thing, the lie that I was sick, everything. And Haley got furious, like angrier than me because she was seeing it from the outside and could see how messed up it all was. So Haley tells me she's at the resort with my aunt and uncle, that they were invited to the wedding, obviously, and asks me if I want her to do something about it. I told her I didn't know what she could do, that the damage was already done. And she tells me, "Trust me, I have an idea." Apparently, Haley is friends with the resort owner's son or something and had access to some things. She told me that at the reception, they were going to show a slideshow of photos of my parents through the years, those cheesy things they do at weddings, and that she could make a small modification to the last slide. I'm not going to lie. I was nervous. I asked her what she was going to do exactly, and she told me it was better, I didn't know the details, to just trust her. So, on the wedding day, I was at home basically glued to my phone, waiting to see what would happen. My parents had posted like 1,000 photos of the ceremony, which by the way looked super pretty. Everyone happy and crying. Miranda crying, Cameron with his emotional speech, all very perfect for Instagram. And then came the reception. Haley was sending me updates by message. She told me the slideshow was scheduled for after dinner, before the first dance. That there were like 50 photos of my parents since they met, photos of when we were babies, the whole family history. And then, right before the slideshow started, Haley managed to modify the last slide. Instead of ending with something like, "and they lived happily ever after," or whatever cheesy thing they'd planned, the last slide said something like, "Some family members couldn't make it here today." Or were they forgotten? With a photo of me from when I was like 8 years old on a family vacation. I would have loved to see everyone's faces when that slide appeared. According to Haley, there was like a super awkward silence, then murmurs, and people started taking out their phones. Because of course, several of the guests had already seen my Instagram post, so the pieces started coming together. My Uncle Walter, Haley's dad, apparently stood up and went straight to my parents to ask them what the hell was going on, why I wasn't there, if I clearly wasn't sick according to my Instagram. My mom tried to do damage control, saying it was an error in the slideshow, that someone had hacked the presentation or something, but it was too late because people were already commenting on my Instagram posts, asking if I was okay, saying it was weird I wasn't at the wedding. And my cousin, blessed Haley, showed several guests the screenshots of conversations where my parents had basically told me my only role was to be a babysitter, and that they'd forgotten to include me in the flight plans. The reception apparently turned into a disaster. My mom left crying to her room. My dad was trying to calm the guests, saying it was a family misunderstanding. Miranda was furious with Haley for ruining the wedding. Cameron was trying to get everyone to keep dancing and acting normal. But the damage was done. My mom's perfect Instagram wedding had turned into public family drama. And for once, I wasn't the one who looked bad. My Instagram post literally exploded. People I didn't even know existed started commenting. Family, friends who'd known me since I was little sending me supportive messages. Even some college classmates sharing my post and saying things like, "This is emotional abuse and you're so strong for standing up for yourself." My mom sent me like 15 messages that night, all dramatic, saying I'd ruined the most important day of her life. How could I be so cruel? That she would never forgive me. My dad called me at like 2 a.m., yelling that I was a disgrace to the family, that I'd humiliated my mom in front of all her friends. I hung up on him. Miranda sent me a long message saying she'd always known I was selfish, but this was a new level. That I'd traumatized her kids who didn't even know what was happening because they're like 3 and 5 years old, that mom had had a panic attack, and they almost canceled the honeymoon. Cameron was more direct, basically told me I was dead to him, that after what I did he didn't have a sister, all very dramatic. Kelsey, who again, isn't even blood family, also sent me a message calling me a bitch and saying I didn't deserve to have such a loving family. The irony of that last part wasn't lost on anyone but her, apparently. My parents cut their honeymoon short and came back like 3 days later. Furious. Apparently, the rest of the reception was super awkward. Several relatives stopped talking to my parents. My uncle Walter had made a whole scene defending me, and basically my mom's dream wedding had become the talk of the entire extended family. When they got to the house, I was in the living room with my bags already packed. I'd decided I wasn't going to stay there one more day. My mom comes in and starts with the tears show, saying how could I do this to her, that she gave me everything, that she sacrificed so much for me. I told her the only thing she sacrificed was treating me like a real daughter, instead of like a late afterthought and convenience. That they never included me in anything, that I was always invisible, unless they needed me for something. That lying saying I was sick was the straw that broke the camel's back. My dad tries to intervene, saying I'm exaggerating, that I was always treated the same as my siblings, and I literally laughed in his face. I asked him, when was the last time they celebrated something of mine? When was the last time they asked me how I was or what I was doing in school, without it having to do with asking me for a favor? Then my uncle Walter, who literally is my hero, arrived at the house. Apparently, Haley had told him I was coming back, and he decided to drive the 2 hours from his city to make sure I was okay. Walter is like the protective older brother. He was always more sensible than my mom, and he never liked how they treated me but didn't know how bad it was until the wedding. He walked into the house and got straight to the point, told my mom she'd been a terrible mother to me, that for years she'd prioritized the image of a perfect family over actually being a good mother to her 3 children, that he and his wife Joyce had been watching them ignore me for years and it was enough. My mom tried to go into victim mode with Walter, but it didn't work on him. He's known her since they were kids and knows all her tricks. He told her that if she really loved me, if she really cared, she had to admit she'd failed as a mother to me, that she couldn't keep pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. My dad tried to defend my mom, saying Walter didn't understand, that it was more complicated than that. And Walter basically told him the only complicated thing was how 2 adults had managed to treat their youngest daughter like she was invisible for 19 years. Walter told me to pack my things and that I was going to go with him and Joyce for a while until I could figure out what I wanted to do. My parents tried to protest, saying I couldn't just leave, that I was a minor, false, I'm already 19, that we needed to fix this as a family. I told them they stopped being my family the moment they decided my only value was being useful to them, that Miranda and Cameron could be their perfect family. I was going to find mine somewhere else. What followed were like 2 weeks of desperate calls and messages. My mom alternated between angry and sad, sending me messages, saying she missed me, and then messages saying I'd ruined her life. My dad tried the be reasonable approach, saying everyone makes mistakes, that family forgives, that we should go to therapy together. Miranda sent me a message offering apologies, but basically it was her saying she's sorry I felt excluded, but that I misinterpreted their intentions. Cameron straight up blocked me from everything, after sending me one last message saying Mom wouldn't stop crying and it was my fault. But what surprised me most was that a lot of extended family contacted me to support me. Cousins I barely knew, sending me messages saying they'd always noticed I was treated differently. Aunts and uncles telling me they wished they'd intervened sooner. Even some of my parents' friends contacted me privately to tell me they'd seen the signs for years but didn't know what to do. It was kind of surreal to realize that everyone had seen it. Everyone knew something wasn't right, but nobody had said anything, until I made it public. My parents tried to make gestures to fix things, but in the most superficial way possible. My mom sent me flowers with a card saying sorry for any misunderstanding, like she couldn't even admit what specifically she'd done wrong. My dad transferred money to my account with a note saying, to help you with expenses, as if money was going to compensate for 19 years of emotional neglect. Miranda invited me to brunch, to talk. But when the time came, spoiler, I didn't go. Haley told me she heard Miranda was basically going to try to convince me to apologize to Mom. I lived with my uncle Walter and Aunt Joyce for like 2 months, and honestly, it was eye-opening. They treated me like a real person, asked about my day, were interested in my classes. We had dinner together every night and really talked. It was everything my family never was. Joyce helped me look for apartments near my university, and Walter offered to help me with the deposit and first months of rent until I could stand on my own. About 3 weeks ago, I moved into my own apartment. It's tiny, but it's mine. It's weird being alone, but it's also liberating, you know? I don't have to be walking on eggshells. I don't have to feel invisible in my own home. I don't have to constantly hear how perfect Miranda and Cameron are. It's just me, figuring things out on my own. My parents still try to communicate, but not with as much desperation anymore. Now it's more like occasional messages asking how I am, if I need anything, suggesting we should eventually have a real conversation. But it's never a real apology, you know? It's never, we were wrong to treat you like that for all these years and we want to change. It's always, we hope someday you can forgive us for whatever you felt, as if the problem was my feelings and not their actions. I started therapy like a month ago because Joyce convinced me it would be good to talk to someone professional about all this. And honestly, it's helped me a lot to process all this shit. My therapist says what I experienced is called emotional child neglect, and that it's much more common than people think, especially in families where parents aren't openly abusive but aren't really present for all their children equally. She's helping me understand it wasn't my fault, that there was nothing wrong with me, that the problem was always my parents' inability to love their children equally. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing exposing everything on Instagram, if I went too far with the slideshow thing at the wedding. But then I remember the photo where my mom put my whole family as if I didn't exist. I remember they forgot my plane ticket. I remember they wanted me to go just to be a free babysitter. And I know that if I hadn't done something drastic, they would have continued with their perfect family narrative while I kept being invisible. What still hurts, I'm not going to lie, is that Miranda and Cameron chose my parents' side without even asking for my version. Like, they know what our parents are like. They had to have seen how they treated me differently. But they still decided that keeping family peace was more important than acknowledging their younger sister had been ignored for years. I guess it's easier to be the favorite child than to admit your parents have favorites in the first place. Last week was my 20th birthday, and it was the first one I spent completely alone, without my family. Well, not completely alone because Walter, Joyce, and Haley came to my apartment with a cake and gifts, and it was really nice. My parents sent me a birthday card with more money and a generic message about how much they love me. Miranda sent me a happy birthday message with nothing else. Cameron didn't even remember. Or if he remembered, he didn't say anything. And you know what? I was fine. I didn't cry. I didn't feel devastated. I felt more peace at that small birthday with people who really care about me than at all my previous birthdays with my family pretending they cared. I don't know how this is going to end. If someday I'll be able to have a real relationship with my parents or my siblings, or if this is simply the end of whatever we had. But what I do know is that I'm not going to accept crumbs of affection anymore. I'm not going to be invisible just because it's more convenient for them. I deserve more than that, and if they can't give it to me, I'll find my family somewhere else. I've already started, honestly.